please put your hands together and help me give a warm welcome to our host, Katie Ross.
Hello, everyone. Hello to everyone who's here today and also watching this maybe at a later point in time who are looking for inspiration. I'm happy you clicked on this one. You know, it is the last session of today, and I appreciate you all being here, willing to hear from this great panel that we have lined up to share some true gems with all of us on how we can prepare for life after Full Sail. I think something you'll recognize is it looks different for everybody, and but there's still a lot of the same similarities that we can take from each one. So we'll kind of dive right on in. I'd like to talk with you guys about how did your time as a student and working with peers influence how you moved out into the industry? Did you tap back into them at any point? Like, how did you use your personal network?
I actually didn't at all. I know it's not the question or the answer that most people are looking for or expecting, but I went straight and looked for a job myself. I didn't really tap into any network. I found an internship myself, and it was really more the people through my first job that I guess was more my network than the people I went to school with. Mm-hmm. But then I worked with those same people for, I guess it would have been a total of like 15 years. I worked with them at 2015 on Medal of Honor, and then we all left and did Infinity Ward. So it's funny because, like, as big of a franchise Call of Duty is, I didn't really grow my network as much as like someone that's moved around to multiple studios, because a lot of people, typically people don't stick at a studio for 15 years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was a little different for me. So.
Mm-hmm. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. So for me, you know, as a show production student, we spend a lot of time together with our class. Unlike a lot of the other programs on campus, my graduating class was only 8 people. So that's basically our family, and that's how we treated it. So as we, you know, went out on the road, that kind of carries with my touring family. So the artists that I work for, yes, I bounce around, but I look at them all as my family members. You know, I just finished touring with Lizzo, and we were together for 6 months at a time, seeing the same people every morning, seeing them more than my fiance, my mom, my dad. So that bond that I grew with my fellow classmates, I just transitioned that into my coworkers.
So I've never blindly just sent out a resume. There's always been someone on the other end that was expecting it from me, or I've passed it on to someone who's passed it on to someone who they were friends with. So my first job, I was at Activision. I got to work on Guitar Hero, and that came about from getting to know career development people here. And when Activision came into town, they said, we want to interview your students, give them, you know, we're looking to hire some students, some entry-level students. And so career development already knew me, so they got my resume in front of Activision, and everything happened on campus. I got my first interview here on campus, so career development helped me out from there. But every gig I've had since then, I've always had someone on the other end. There's always been someone at the company that I've reached out to and gotten to know, and I've always got my resume in through them. Yeah.
I think speaking about family, as you were saying, Brandon, but even staying at a company for 15 years, it's a really big deal. Like you were saying, not a lot of people do that. What is it about working in that family, that group of people? What behaviors is it that they show that makes you want to come to work every day and continue to work with them?
For me, it would be that I can count on someone else. If I'm slacking that day, I know that my teammates or my coworkers, they can pick up the slack for me, and vice versa. I can do the same for them. In the live industry, we are a team, and when one person is, you know, maybe having a bad day, that affects the show. If our LD is hurt and can't put up her console, you know, then there's no lights that show. So, or if she's overworked and, you know, needs to pay attention to something else, I take it upon myself to put up her console for her, so that when she comes back and it's time to work, she doesn't have to worry about that. Teamwork is everything for I think a lot of industries. It's how you get everything done. You can't take on everything by yourself. Yeah.
You get to work with so many different talented people. So an artist might give me a Photoshop document of what a screen or a feature is supposed to look like, and when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about how I can use code to bring this screen to life. But at the same time, I'm amazed. Like it looks amazing. It's just wow. This is what the game is going to look like. And now I get to bring it to life, and we just go back and forth. There's so much synergy between the programmers, the artists, the designers. Whenever someone has a good idea, we can collaborate on it and make it even better. Just everyone they all blow me away all the time with all the different skill sets, all the different talents that they have. Everyone, they're just awesome to work with.
More or less mirroring what these guys just said, just people that are cool to be around. I don't mean cool people like hip, but just thoughtful people that get their work done, more or less. Unless there's a reason they wouldn't have it done, but there's always things that come up. But yeah, there's always, if you work with somebody directly, like for instance, when I was doing reloads and view model first-person animations for Call of Duty, well, before I was like pretty much the last person that gun would see. So before it got to me, it'd have to go through, someone model it and texture, rigging, and if there's any hiccups along that way, now my work I have to start, a week, 2 weeks later or whatever, and that affects me as well. And sometimes you can't prevent that; just stuff happens. But it's bad when it happens when it shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. That makes me think about, as an educator, right? Everything you just said takes place in the classroom. Teamwork, people having to do their part, recognizing when someone might be having something take place with them and you've got to step into that role to help them out. So kind of thinking back to your experience as a student and you were sitting in the classroom, tell us about how you think your learning experience, the time you were with your teammates, working on extra projects, whatever it was, the curriculum, the knowledge from your teachers, how do you think that played a role in your development as an alumni?
It's been 20 years.
Take a few minutes.
So one of the cool things about Full Sail is that there's always something going on here. There's always someone working on a really cool project, something that you'd find really interesting. And they may not be in your degree program, they may be in other degree programs. So I was always interested in becoming a game programmer, but there were plenty of people on campus that wanted to do game art, wanted to do game audio, wanted to do creative writing for games. So we weren't always naturally paired with those people. You had to kind of go find those people out for yourself. But they are here on campus. And if you go out and you network with people from other degree programs, there's a lot of events you can do, like the behind-the-scenes tour. You can do International Student Society. When I was here, there was Propeller. I'm sure there's something similar.
Full Sail 1.
Full Sail 1, yeah. I used to write for Propeller, or what is now Full Sail 1. So yeah, there's always something going on campus. There's always free food somewhere on campus. And if you don't get to know people, you won't know where it is. So.
For myself, I stayed really involved on, the behind the scenes weekend. Special weeks like Hall of Fame, I was probably in this room or the room back there, behind the audio console. I found, 4-hour lectures and 4-hour labs, that wasn't enough. And I was constantly hungry for more and more and more. And so, an 8-hour mandatory day would turn into a 12 and 16-hour day because, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And the funny part is it basically just summed up what my life is now. A typical tour day is about 16 to 17 hours, and it's normal now, Hall of Fame has been a blessing because I get to sleep in a little bit later, but yeah, just stay involved in everything on campus,
Yeah. We had when I was in animation, studying animation here, we had, I don't know, probably like 15 to 20 computers for the whole school for all of animation because it required these, 50 plus $60,000 beast machines that they could only buy a handful of. So as a result, if you wanted access to them, sometimes you had to come in for a 3 a.m. or a 5 a.m. lab or a 1 a.m. lab. And so that kind of prepared me from just like for some of the crazy hours in the game industry. No one's coming in at 5 a.m. in any studio anywhere. If they're there at 5 a.m., it's because they just haven't gone home yet, which is not uncommon. But now that I'm back in Orlando now. I'm over in Baldwin Park, so I'm here at Full Sail, usually multiple times a week, and just trying to poke my head in projects here, just stop by the VR, AR lab, the Fab lab, and just get inspired from, the students and the instructors, I'm kind of jealous that SimViz didn't exist when I was around. I probably would have done that, but yeah.
But Chance, would you say that that was true of you when you were a student 20 years ago too, that you were doing the same thing, that you were wandering campus, finding areas that were passionate to you, that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I did, but honestly, like as in the degree program I was in, it was kind of just, I was stuck in animation land. I wasn't so much involved in all the other stuff. I was an actor in a final project of Darren Bozeman, who's also in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. I was a seduced pizza boy. So that's like kind of a little extra. And it's funny because it took us like 2 Hall of Fames to realize that we worked together on that project. We're like, wait a second, I remember you were that angry asshole director. Mm-hmm. Darren's a good guy, but he is a director.
What advice would you guys have for really anyone who is saying, I'm coming to school, I'm also working part-time, I have no more hours in the day to write for Full Sail 1 or to be an extra in a movie or to, volunteer for these types of events? What advice would you give them on trying to find that extra time?
Wake up a little bit earlier. That has been a thing that's been a part of my life now.
By choice?
Yeah, by choice.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely by choice. So being on the road, health has been, something a balance that I'm trying to figure out. And the only thing that, obviously, you go to the gym. But all of my day, I can't fit everything within my day. So the only choice is just to wake up a couple hours earlier and just, get it done. And once yes, waking up it's so terrible, especially when you're in deep sleep. But once you accomplish something, for an hour, and you can set small goals, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Once you finish that for the day, I know for myself, I'm on a high, and I feel like I accomplished something for the day, and I can do anything for the rest of my day. And I don't have to, worry about that burden on, I need to go to the gym for the day, so.
And like reward yourself, find things you want to do that aren't necessarily work, and then say, hey, I'll do a little bit of this after I do this. Kind of gamify your life a little bit. That helps, I think.
Yeah, it's about trying to do the work-life balance. I think it's very important, but it's really about prioritizing. So when I started Full Sail, I started in 2002. And I had some immigration issues, and I had to leave the country. And I left in the middle of the program, and I came back in 2005 and started over again. And I think that's just what that was out of my control. But it's just what I had to do. There was always the goal of I'm gonna get through Full Sail. I'm gonna go make video games, and just maybe now isn't the right time, but I'm going to keep at it until it is the right time. And sometimes you just have to put things on the back burner. Obviously, things like family are important. Your job is important. Keeping a roof over your head is important. And if those things take priority over Full Sail, then so be it. But when it comes time to devote your time to Full Sail, you'll want to make sure you get the most the most you can for your money here. Spend every hour you can, like working with other students, learning from your course directors, just getting involved. Just really make the most of your time here.
I have a little trick that I started doing where it's like a discipline trick. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's thought of this, but I treat myself as multiple people. There's present me, there's future me, and there's past me. And like, let's say I go out, like for now what I do a lot of, I'm doing a lot of consulting for games, a lot of business stuff, PR, media, so that means a lot of like late nights, going out, meeting people, having drinks and stuff. And I'll be like, okay, Chance, future Chance probably doesn't want you to have another drink. You should go home. Future Chance wants you to go home and sleep because you'll feel better tomorrow. And then in the morning, I'm like, good job, past Chance, And then you kind of like, think about that. Like you sometimes treat yourself worse than you do your friends or even strangers. Like, why do we do that? So as soon as you separate yourself, you're on different timelines, it kind of puts it in perspective of how you should act.
I like that. I imagine you have like all these gold stars.
Yeah, and Future Chance has this awesome space helmet.
Right. It's smart. It's smart though.
But I never get to see him because I'm always present.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Unfortunate.
So kind of moving into networking a little bit, which is always a kind of a hard topic, right? Because I think we always hear this, like the conversation on like introvert and extroverts. So what advice do you have for students who fall into either one of those buckets, which are both equally as important in any industry, to be able to network appropriately? What advice, skills, things should students do?
I think you need to find that balance for yourself, and everyone's balance is going to be different. But trying to get yourself out there, but also feeling comfortable enough and confident enough. For me, it comes naturally. I'm just a happy-go-lucky person, to be honest. But there are moments when I'm in situations where the person is maybe a little bit out of my, just out of my norm of who I'm ready to talk to, and I just kind of pull it together. And but for me as a freelancer, networking is the key to how I make a living. Like you said, I haven't sent a resume out in years, and all of my work comes from word of mouth. And it's not necessarily me calling, hey, I need a job, hey, I need work. It's, hey, how's your daughter doing? How's your wife? How's your husband? Making a personal and emotional connection with someone, because then they may, have a phone call with someone later and then remember back to our conversation. And not to be any long-winded, but I feel that, in today's age, we hide behind our cell phones and our computers, sending emails and text messages, but you can't feel the emotion in that. And when you're networking, emotion that's what the connection is about, or at least for me it is.
Yeah, if it doesn't come naturally to you, it never came naturally to me. I kind of had to force myself to network, to speak to people, to get out of my shell. And I think I just started setting challenges for myself. Like I'd go to the grocery store, and as I was checking out, I'd start a conversation with the cashier. Things like that, just simple things. Or I'd be sitting in the hallway here, just working on my project, and I'd think, the next person that comes in through the door, I'm just going to say hi to them. Things like that. Or I'm going to smile at people and say hello as I'm walking, just down the hallway. You just have to set yourself little challenges. And it gets easier the more of those you get successful at. Just start with small things like that, and then maybe start doing more intimidating things. Start targeting, not targeting individuals, but that Kerry Allen guy. I always wanted to talk to him. Oh, he's over there. I'm gonna go start a conversation. You can build up to that. Yeah.
And don't overthink. Sometimes if you have a hard time. Like, let's say you're wanting to talk to someone in the industry, so maybe someone at Full Sail that's in your industry, and you're kind of shy, and you're just not the super extrovert type. Honestly, most people don't give a crap, about most things. And I don't mean that in I mean that in a just everything that you think you might do socially that's going to be weird, or you might say something wrong, they're not noticing for the most part, unless it's really bad, And learning to not give a crap is literally one of the best things about getting older. And I don't mean about the things that matter, but just not caring about what people think. You know, first off, they're probably not even thinking about you. And if they're thinking something bad, unless you did something to deserve them to, you know, really horrible, don't worry about it, you know? And that's not go through life, just be like, whatever, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, people tend to get stuck in their brain over-analyzing social situations when you can just go up to someone, even if they're like a celebrity or something, and just talk to them, and they'll talk to you back.
We're all humans, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
simple.
obviously using just common sense, just like social common sense, but there's not as much pressure as it seems usually.
What should new grads, what should they expect after graduation, realistically, right? Like sometimes I think, especially we see you guys up here or spend our time with the Hall of Famers, and you guys have just done such amazing, amazing work, but it wasn't always like this. There were, you know, it took some time. So what should they expect for life after graduation?
So for me, it's always been, I've always had to, because of my immigration status, I've always had to go for the bigger companies. I've always, people have said, no, don't aim for Activision or EA or Microsoft or id. But that's exactly what I did. I aimed for all of those companies, and I got in. My first job, I got it maybe 2 months after I graduated. Yeah, it really. I mean, I don't want to say it was easy. It wasn't easy, but don't be put off by things like that. Don't think, oh, this is, you know, this company is out of my, I'm not good enough to work at this company. Like we need we need all skill levels across the industry. You know, everyone. We need everyone involved. So, you know, don't be intimidated by that.
Oh, got anything in addition?
Oh, well, nailed it.
I
Good job.
don't know. I think I was in the same boat as you. I thought that I was going to be a front of house or monitor mixer in 15, 20 years. I graduated in 2013, and, you know, I can humbly say that I've mixed for some of the, you know, bigger pop artists on the planet right now. But when those opportunities were presented to me, I took full advantage as if I was some seasoned veteran, which means I gambled really hard on that because, you know, I don't think I was really ready to be in that place, but, you know, talking to mentors and other people, I took advantage of all those situations to now be at a place 6 years graduating, you know, mixing shows. It doesn't happen for everyone, but when it does, you have to take advantage of it and, you know, just realize that you are, you know, not to get spiritual, but that's a blessing, you know, coming your way. And that's how I look at this every single day. You know?
Yeah. Honestly, I think I got a little bit, I mean, I know I got lucky. And that doesn't mean I didn't have the skills, you know, someone that didn't have the skills wouldn't have got lucky. But if I look at, you know, how my career just kind of like, I graduated Full Sail, and I was literally creating the first Call of Duty within 2 years. So that's not usually how it works. You know, it's usually, you know, work on this indie game, this project, unpaid. Oh, I got something paid, and then it ramps up. With this, I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so I'd stop there to see family. And I made friends with this guy at this random little indie rock show, and he said he was interning at this game studio. I was like, there's a game studio in Tulsa? Like, it was just not expected at all. There's no, you know, no industry there for the most part when it comes to games. And so stopped there on my way back after failing, I went out to California. I slept in my car for literally probably a week or two out of this 1 month I was there. I got no work. I was showering at a Gold's Gym, just trying to, you know, like it was pretty rough. I was like an '88 Honda Accord, and I'm 6'3", and the '88 Honda Accord is like a Honda Fit these days. You know, the cars just keep getting bigger for some reason. But yeah, and so going back to Orlando, because I failed to find work in LA, which had the most work, out of all places, I found work in Oklahoma. So I got that internship. I was unpaid for 3 weeks, then they hired me at like $22K a year, I think it was. This is in 2001, kind of mid. And then after shipping Medal of Honor, there was no one liked the guy we worked for. He was a crazy lunatic. I'm confident saying that on a camera. Everyone would back me up. And so 22 of the 30 people left, a mass exodus. Wow. And we're like, okay, we got to come up with something that beats Medal of Honor now. We just threw out some names and ended up with Call of Duty, and then did the game we wanted. We did the game that, not the game that EA wanted us to make, we did the game that game developers wanted to make, and Activision allowed us to create the World War II game we wanted and not have it perverted by a publisher. Is that too extreme, perverted by your publisher?
No, yes, sir. I think there's something to dig into that, though, because yes, there is always a little bit of luck that kind of works out in it, for sure, right? Right place, right time type of thing with luck. But job right after graduation, having the experience that you have, Brandon, like you said, shortly after graduation, 20 years in, excellent resume. What do you think it was, though, that gave you that edge at the beginning that allowed you moved in? What behaviors do you think you exhibited? What skills, what knowledge? What do you think it was?
I was the only person in Oklahoma that knew Maya. No, I'm joking.
Okay, so expertise in a very unique way. Yeah, that's something.
No, that's not true. I was adamant, and my skills were good enough that where if I was nice enough, they'd give me a shot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when I was talking with career development, when I was getting ready to graduate, Rob Coble came into our final project class and he said, "Come make an appointment with me. We'll go over your resume and we'll see what we can do for you. We'll see, we'll get you a career, get you started looking for your career." So I made an appointment with Rob and we went over my resume and got it to the point where I was happy with it, and just kind of just making conversation with him, I said, "So how's it going with the rest of my classmates? Have you met with all of them yet?" And he said, "About half of them have made an appointment with me." I'm like, "Half? What are the other half doing?" And it wasn't really a surprise at the end which half got a job and which half didn't. And maybe career development was involved in all of that half getting a job, or maybe it was just the fact that they were proactive. But you can't just sit on the couch when you graduate and expect the job to come to you. You got to get out there. You got to send your resume out there. You got to get meeting people. You got to do your research on the different companies that you're interested in. That's not going to happen for you. You've got to do that. You're never going to get lucky if you don't do that. But if you do that, you're putting yourself in the best possible position you can for that luck to find you.
Or you can be like me, who was one of those people who didn't use career development, and which I totally regret. But I waited until the last month of school, set up the appointment, and I don't think I actually went to that appointment. But I put all my eggs into this one basket, and I'll take a little back. I'll take you guys a little back. I wanted to work for Claire Global, which is one of the biggest audio touring companies on the planet. And I put all my eggs into that. I came to Full Sail because I knew that they hired Full Sail grads. A month out of school, a month from graduation, I called up because I live in New Jersey. They're about 2 hours away. I called to see if I can set up an appointment to have my interview. And I was told that, they weren't taking anyone. I literally set up myself while in school for success, but while doing that, what I did was end up setting myself up for failure because I put everything into this one basket. And it literally felt like someone pulled the rug up from underneath me. And I remember, I don't know if it was Hall of Fame or what the event was, but I ended up calling my mom that day. And I cried on the phone and I said, "I don't know what to do." I was like, "I've done everything, quote unquote, right to get my job or to start my career." And I just wish back then, I had leaned on more support from the school. But then on the other side, I don't wish I did that, because that wouldn't have made me who I am today. My journey would have been totally different. So. Yeah.
How do you think these setbacks that you've had in your career, or even right after graduation, how do you think they've helped shape you? in the industry? How has it prepared you for other setbacks? How does it help you overcome challenges?
For me, it's told me not to hold on to grudges. When I had that phone call with the person who we are actually now, good friends now, for the longest, I disliked that company. To the point where, and I can say this on camera, but I, would have the option of picking as an audio vendor, one company or other, and I would go the other way because, I was hurt. Emotionally, I was attached to this company because that's what I wanted to do. But I actually had a chance to rehearse up at Claire, and I met the person that I ended up having a conversation with, and I just let loose of all of that. There was no need to hold on to any of this grudge. And now the relationship that I have with them it's pretty great. Between them and another company, they keep me working the whole year. So don't hold on to things because they just fester into stuff that you don't even need to worry about.
And typically, companies they're groups of people. So 10 years later, it's not the same people usually. So a lot of those people that you might not have liked maybe moved on. So to identify and try to say that company is the same it was 10 years ago, it's probably not true at all. There's been instances in my career where we've had really bad experiences with publishers, and I have nothing against those publishers now. I mean, they're all kind of have that on their record at some point. So yeah, you just kind of have to let go of some of those things and just realize that people make mistakes too. Even the people that you don't like that are gone, they're not perfect. So
I think you're never helpless. You always have some degree of control over where you're going. You always have some way of making tomorrow a better day than today. I've been through some rough things. I've been laid off. I've been kicked out the country several times. I've been, that probably won't happen to you guys, so don't worry about that.
I've also been deported. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, 2 out of 4 here.
Yeah.
Been deported before?
There was one point while I was a student here that I got in an accident with a friend's dog, and I ended up blind for a couple of weeks. And I still came in. I had to have someone guide me around, but I sat with my group at the time. We were working on our midterm projects as a group, and just being there for my group, I felt like I was doing something for them. Even though I can't really code too well blind, but as it turns out. But
Everyone's wondering how a dog makes you blind right now.
Scratched your eye, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I
TLDR.
heard this whole conversation
Right. Yeah. The TLDR. He jumped up and he was all excited. He jumped up and he scratched my eyes, and I had to spend a couple of weeks with my eyes all bandaged up.
Scary.
Yeah.
But kind of what Brandon was saying, you had teammates who walked you around, who guided you through that team collaboration.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? And also part of the reason why you ended up getting a job as well, other than the other half, because you were coming to school when you couldn't see.
Right.
That's grit, for sure. Got a doubt. So speaking on that then, what advice would you have for everyone when they're graduated, they're putting out those resumes, their reels, all of that as much as possible, and they're not hearing anything? What advice do you have for them? What little nuggets of wisdom should they keep in their mind if that happens to anyone?
It depend on what if you're an artist or an animator, then it's probably your reel. It's just, sometimes you can even send in a good reel and you won't hear anything. Sometimes you just have to blow them away because they're getting lots of good reels, I've heard stories of people doing things like camping out, to show how dedicated they are to wanting this job. Don't do that. That's going to guarantee you don't get the job. That's just going to creep people out, like some kind of crazy thing like that. Because obviously, like if you've tried everything before that and you weren't getting in, then camping out is probably not going to do it for you.
If you're a programmer, it's probably your programming test. So the first few months of the game development program or software development or any of the programming degrees that you have here, probably the first 2 or 3 programming months are the most important months really of your career. Really in those months they teach you how to program, and the rest of the degree program is about, okay, now you can program, here's some cool stuff you can do. But when I'm testing people for a job, I'm really hitting those fundamentals, those first few months. Every programmer needs to know those things. Every programmer has to be like, just off the top of their head, just bang, 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 know all these concepts that you know, that you learn in those first few months. Those are vital. So if you're finding that you're not doing well in the programming tests, you're getting, like you can ask for feedback if you submit a programming test. They'll tell you, the things that you could improve on. And if you're finding that there's a lot of things that you can improve on, it's probably those first few months. Those definitely the most important months of any of the programming degrees here.
In the touring industry, work is very seasonal. So normally around November or end of September to February is when work is just down. Big concerts don't go, or many concerts don't go out during those times unless it's a huge concert. And a lot of those, huge artists have their crews that they've had for, 10 plus years. So sometimes you have to look at, what time of the year it is. And if you can't hold out, to find a big touring job, look at what, there's AV, there's hotel. There's so many in the live realm. There's so many avenues to go down to find a job. Unfortunately, the coronavirus is hurting us, really hard because we have to. For myself, we travel everywhere. Last night, Coachella got pushed back to October. So, it's tough times. But what I realized is that we're all going through it together. It's not just the touring industry, the hotel industry, the transportation industry. We're all kind of, taking a hit by this. But you just have to be aware of what's going on, not just within your world, but what's happening elsewhere too, because that affects, you getting a job. Mm-hmm. The more mature, or the people who've been doing it longer are going to get those calls a little bit sooner than you are.
Right. But I think diving into whatever is close, practicing a skill if need be, tapping into local music industries or whatever it is, career development, having someone look at your resume, your reel again, especially reaching out to a Hall of Fame or anything along those lines. So all things that we can do. So that kind of leaves us to the point we're going to open the floor for questions from all of you to see what you guys would like to know about life after Full Sail.
Hi, I'm Douglas Pfeiffer, Game Design Masters. You were mentioning before about learning the fundamentals of code when it comes to programming tests. What advice would you give if you're looking to improve on those skills?
Yeah, so I know when I went through, we had Programming 1, Programming 2, data structures, and those are the classes I'm talking about. I don't know if they still teach those classes here. Yeah, those are the classes I'm talking about. So those are the really important ones. Learning about inheritance, object-oriented programming, learning what the public, private, protected keywords do, what a constructor, a destructor is, learning what the virtual keyword does, things like that. Those are all really important. What happened. This is probably completely irrelevant to everyone in the room that isn't a programmer, right? But what happens when you make a class virtual, or when you use a virtual keyword in a class definition, how it generates, what happens under the HUD, how it generates the virtual table and all of that. That's all the stuff that we'll really hammer you on for over your programming test and your interviews. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think with that, what I also hear you saying that I want to just push out there for everyone is that foundational knowledge that the rest of your classes and curriculum built on top of. So when you gain that foundational knowledge, everything else from there was a bit easier. So for anyone in here watching or listening or watching, if you're going, what is the foundational knowledge for my program? Because it's in every single degree program. I would find out right away, whether from a teacher, a Hall of Famer this week during a meet and greet, but really asking, what's that foundational knowledge that I need to grasp? That will be key.
Yeah, there's a lot of roles that you can go into after you graduate, even like just from programming. You don't have to go into games. You can go into any sort of business, like any sort of software engineering. And so no matter what you go into, you might not use graphics, you might not use networking code anymore, you might not use AI, but you'll always use those fundamentals. Those first 3 months are really important. And I'm sure it's the same for other degree programs. I'm sure they teach you the fundamentals in the first few months, and then they're like, okay, now you know the fundamentals. Here's a few different things, a few different options that you have to apply that. And you go into whichever option is most interesting to you. It's just kind of the same in programming. We teach you the fundamentals in the first few months, and everyone has to know that.
Hello, Justin Butler. I'm in the Game Design Bachelor's. How soon can you start sending your resumes and seeing career development? Because I know my first week I went there and they're like, you're too soon. This is your first week of school.
I don't know if career development has a policy right now about seeing students at a certain point in their degree program. I think for when I was going through, basically, if you weren't in final project, they'd say, yeah, you can, we'll see you in the open day. I think it was Wednesdays, they'd see anyone. But they have to focus their time really on the students that are getting ready to graduate. I'd say when you're in final project, that's when you should really start hitting it hard. You should have your resume ready to go, start a final project, and start your job hunt while you're in final project.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding is they have open door days, but what we will do, I'm about to make a promise on recording, this is a little scary. I'll try to work on getting a tweet pushed out about the career development, because that's been a question that has popped up a few times. So maybe just watch on Twitter or even the monitors that are popping up if you don't tweet. But we'll try to get some information pushed out about that, or even on Full Sail 1 over the next few days, so that you guys have that information. So, because I think you can even go there, right, just if you want to practice your interviewing skills. I mean, something that's simple. The roundtables, I know that during BTS weeks, when our alumni are here on campus, they also on Saturdays have roundtable events with free food. I believe there's donuts and stuff like that, where you can go and meet the group of alumni who are here for BTS week, which happens monthly. I mean, this is on Saturday morning. So that comes back to what you said. This group of students who are doing things, compared to the ones who won't and move into that industry. So you can treat that just like Hall of Fame week too.
Yeah.
Question over here.
Hi, I'm Valentina Rojas. I'm in film. I have a question from an international student point of view. Was there any moment where you saw that companies or employers kind of were spooked by the idea of the whole work visa process, that whole thing, and how did you get over that bump?
Yeah, I've actually interviewed with companies before, and you speak with the recruiter at first, and you let them know, yeah, I'm an international, I'm an immigrant. I'm going to need a work visa to work in the United States, and sometimes they forget that, and then they pass your info on to the team, and the team interviews you, and you get to know them, and they're like, oh yeah, you're awesome, you're the guy we need. When can you start? And then you say, okay, well, when can you take care of the visa paperwork for me? And they say, oh, yeah, we didn't know about that. And you say, well, I mentioned it to the recruiter. It's not something that you kind of want looming over you, but it is something that has to be brought up. And I've had companies that have been ready to hire me, and then I've got into that situation with them and then never heard back from them. And that sucks. That's almost worse than not hearing back from someone, right? But the way you get around that, the way you excel is just the same way that anyone would excel, right? When you graduate, everyone that's in your class is going to be applying for the same positions as you, and you've just got to show them that show the employers that you're worth doing that extra paperwork for, that you're worth going that extra step for. And that's really all you can do. You can make the most of it. some companies are just, they just don't have the bandwidth to hire immigrants. They don't have a legal department that can handle that. So I definitely target the bigger companies. That's one of the reasons why I've only worked for big companies. Is because for a company like Microsoft or EA, id, Bethesda, any company like that, they're not going to have a problem. They've got entire teams devoted to getting work visas, getting people sponsored. So it's not going to be a problem for them. So I'd especially target companies like that. I'm sure it's the same in film. There's going to be bigger companies that you can work with. So yeah, I'd target the bigger companies because they're probably in a better position to handle that. You know.
Question over here. We're coming with the mic. It's on its way.
Hello, I'm Daniel Lopez. I graduated from game development 2019. Now I'm doing the master degree. I have a question about programming. Well, in the game industry, how do you guys value soft skills over technical skills? I know like technical skills have to be at the top, but what about soft skills in the gaming industry? How do you value that? Thank you.
Yeah.
I love this question. I love talking about soft skills and hard skills and technical skills.
Yeah, so we actually just got done with we're in the process of doing our review, our performance reviews. And one of the questions is about soft skills. You know, we have to, every company I've actually worked for has had something about soft skills in their performance reviews. So yeah, just as part of working with the team, it's something that's expected. You're expected to be someone that people can work with. You're expected to be approachable. You know, you're expected to be fairly good at answering emails, getting back to people who message you on Slack or instant message or anything like that. You're expected to contribute to the team. Like just team morale is a good thing. Are you goofing off? Are you causing trouble for other people? Are you know, like causing more work for other people? You just like don't be a detriment to the team. I don't know. When we interview people, it's more. We're almost checking more to see if you're not a jerk. We almost know from your programming test already if you're technically good enough for the job. And the interview is almost more just to determine, are you someone we can spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with for our whole career, you know? So yeah, just hang out with people, like get to know your coworkers, you know? Just kind of like how you would with your classmates right now, I guess, yeah.
I love Jack Geckler said yesterday, he said, if you're getting the call, you've already got the job. And when you're called in for the interview, it's about the soft skill component.
Right.
And soft skills, if you know, checking LinkedIn, I'm sure everyone's reading that every day. But there's a lot of conversation around how the industries of the future are looking more for your soft skills. And those soft skills are collaboration, teamwork, time management, balance, essentially. And the cool thing is, I think, especially about being a student, is this is where you get to practice the skill, right? So it's not even networking necessarily a soft skill, but if you're working with a team and you struggle with getting your part of the work done, that's a struggle with your soft skill. If you don't come to class on time, you're struggling there with the soft skill, but you're at a place, which is really cool, that it's risk-free. This is where you get to go, oh, yeah, maybe I'm not so great about getting to class on time, but I get to make it better. Or maybe you need someone that you are in class with and can actually maybe ask them for some feedback about those soft skills for those who are really looking to dive deep into that category. Because I think one thing I've noticed about these panels I've been doing is you guys all really care deeply about soft skills. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I love this topic, so.
Yeah, out of all the skills we've mentioned, it's probably easier to teach you how to program if you're struggling with programming than it is to teach you how to show up on time.
Right.
I can tell you need to be here on time, but that's really on you. There's only so much I can do there. I can probably have an easier time teaching someone who's struggling in programming how to be a better programmer than like I myself am not the most organized person, so if I have to try and organize someone else and, you know, I have to follow up on them, give them a call every morning, like that's, yeah, it's not gonna fly. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Francis Young. I'm in the game design master's. And I just wanted to ask a question about, I know you said that programmers would have to work on their foundations, but I'm a game designer. Would you recommend that we still hammer down those foundations of coding, or would you prefer us to refine our skills with game design, like what makes something fun, or just what is good and bad design?
Yeah, so it really depends on the design position that you're looking for, because designers can mean a lot of different things. You can be a systems designer, you can be a level designer, you can be a narrative designer, and all of those things are completely different. You could be a technical designer, in which case you would be expected to probably know how to code. If you're not a technical designer, a narrative designer, it's probably more important that you're better at creative writing than programming. So it really depends on the type of design position that you're looking for, the type of designer you want to be.
I would say every game designer should learn to program. I think there's, you know, if you look at the amount of jobs out there for game designers and the amount of people that are studying game design, you've got to find a way to stick out from the rest of them, especially when everyone's coming out of school, you know? And it's not, you know, I'm not a programmer, and I've done some programming, you know, not much, but it's not as difficult as a lot of people think. It makes more sense in the English language, usually. So, yeah, like just to have that on your resume, even if you're not going to use it for whatever job, you're going to stand out versus a person that doesn't have those skills.
All right, everyone, well, we have reached the end of our session. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Hall of Fame week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, thanks everyone for being here. This is the last session for today, so if our guests